So because eclipse season is quickly approaching with our first eclipse next week on Thursday in the sign of Virgo, I thought it would be a good time to go over eclipse energies in general when we're talking about astrology. So what is an eclipse when we're talking about from an astrology point of view? So an eclipse is basically when the sun, moon, and the earth align in such a way that there is an obstruction of light. Eclipse essentially just means obstruction of light. Also, if you didn't know, eclipses always happen on new or full moons. So solar eclipses are going to be new moons. Lunar eclipses are going to be full moons, but of course they are amplified energies. It's basically a new or a full moon on steroids. It's a catalyst event that amplifies the energy of the new or full moon even more so. So for a solar eclipse or a new moon solar eclipse, this is going to be the sun, moon, earth. And this is where basically the moon is covering or in front of the sun, so it makes it darker. For a lunar eclipse or a full moon lunar eclipse, it is going to be sun, earth, moon. And this is going to be basically more brightness in the sky from the illumination of the sun on the moon. So because these are new moons and full moons basically on steroids, they are catalyst events. And they are, I should note that they are catalysts of events. They're not always going to happen exactly on the time or on the day of the eclipse. This is usually going to start on the eclipse or around the time of the eclipse and last up until the following eclipse season. So it can set off a catalyst of events or energies, in particular where it's happening in your chart or how powerful it is positioned in your chart. So because there is so much energy around the time of eclipses, or particularly during eclipse season, most astrologers are going to recommend that this is not really a time to start or end things or to make any major life decisions or make any drastic changes in your life. Now, there is also a caveat to eclipses because we can have what we call basically a reverse eclipse. So this is when we would have a solar eclipse or a new moon solar eclipse happening on the south node, which is kind of like a paradoxical energy. Let me explain. So a new moon solar eclipse is typically an energy, or a new moon in general, right, is going to be about new beginnings, fresh starts, planting seeds, or, something new coming into culmination. But it being on the south node is the area of the sky that the collective is kind of moving away from, energies that we have closed out and we have learned our lessons from, and we need to take the knowledge from those south node lessons and integrate them towards the north node where we're still learning to do things. And that's really the energy of where we should be headed. So that's why it's kind of a paradoxical energy when we have, say, a new moon solar eclipse on the south node, or we have a full moon lunar eclipse on the north node, because a full moon lunar eclipse or a full moon in general is usually going to be the culmination or the height of the lunation cycle. And sometimes people refer to full moons or full moon lunar eclipses as endings. It's really just going into the waning half of the lunation cycle. So yes, it can be the catalyst of an ending, but typically I associate dark moons or the end of the lunation cycle as the ending, quote unquote, but the culmination or the full moon can be the progression into the waning half or the start of the end, if that makes sense. So basically what I'm getting at is that yes, you can have a full moon lunar eclipse on, say, the north node, or a new moon solar eclipse on the south node, which gives it kind of a paradoxical energy, because full moons are typically about culminations or going into starting to end things, and then new moons are typically about new beginnings, but on the south node there's this ending quality to it, so it can be a bit confusing. So if that confuses you, just leave that part aside and you can listen to my horoscopes if you want more additional details about each eclipse. More or less, eclipses are energetic extremes. The energy is extremely, extremely potent. And yes, as an astrologer, I would highly recommend not starting new things, not launching a business, not starting a new financial endeavor, or doing something drastic, starting a new relationship, or anything of the sort that's like, a very intense change or decision, or anything that's like drastic in your life. I would hold off until eclipse season is over, especially if it's like positioned in such a way in your chart that it's going to be more powerful for you. The energy is just too potent. It's basically going to chew up whatever it is and spit it back out. And that goes for manifestation, witchcraft, any sort of ritual work. I wouldn't recommend doing any major manifestation during eclipse season. You can do typical things or things that you do more so as like a spiritual practice or a daily routine, but just don't do anything for like major changes in your life. So more on eclipses, of course, because we are going into eclipse season next week with our first total full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. So this is very exciting. It is going to be a very eventful eclipse season. We also have Venus retrograde as well as a Mercury retrograde, which are all aligning at the same time. So I think this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo is going to be very pivotal and powerful. I've looked at it quite a lot already, and there is just a lot of energy. Mercury is stationing the same day, so stay tuned for those horoscopes. Until then, y'all, personal astrology and tarot readings can be found at the link in you know where. If you want my intention oils up until then, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram or TikTok, or shoot me an email. They are on sale right now for $5.99. They will go up when they're up on Etsy. Oh, and don't forget my free mini ebook on the history of tarot. It's at the link in you know where as well. But much love, y'all. Happy almost eclipse season, and stay groovy.